Welcome to the Best of Surrey. It's been a bit of a while since you've heard from us. I'm Marisa Heath.
And I'm Paul Deach.
Hi, Paul. So I gave you a call basically to say, let's have a quick catch up because we've both been involved in many other things, which has meant we haven't done a podcast. I would think, is it 2 or 3 weeks now?
Yeah, it's got to be that. You've not been well though, have you?
So I've been ill. You've been busy working. Things have been going on with unitarisation. We haven't been sitting around idly, that's for sure. So I thought we'd just do a really quick sort of high catch up and let listeners know what the forward plan is, basically, what our next steps are.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I just want to touch on what you just said there about I've been busy with work. You know, one thing that I think a lot of residents don't understand, and I say this about all councillors, not just us or conservative ones, but across the political spectrum, that a great deal of us do actually work full time, as well as our council roles. In our case, cabinet responsibilities. We both work full time. We both have young families and all that sort of stuff. And occasionally, when things are especially busy, something's going to give. And unfortunately, it's been our podcast. Because you've been ill, you've been working full time. Your young family. How old is your daughter?
6.
So no doubt she'll keep you very busy.
She's
I have an 18-year-old
at the moment as well.
Yeah. I have an 18-year-old daughter who is just about to start university in September. So life is very busy in our family home. But also I'm going into my very busy period at work, which basically started last weekend. So so just to explain to people that when you're giving councillors hard time, whoever they are, do remember that they also have a lot of them have full-time jobs.
And this is absolutely no disservice to retired people, because obviously they come with all of the experience they've had from their jobs and things. But actually, I think you want politicians who are doing other things. I mean, my experience over the last 2 weeks with the NHS has given me a real insight. I haven't really been someone who's used the NHS very much, apart from the very bad experience I had with my mother.
Well, I wanted you to touch on that, Marisa, because we have discussed that before. We have talked about the NHS on this podcast before and some of your experiences, but you've had a wholly different experience this time, haven't you?
Yeah, and actually I've heard from a lot of people who've had a similar experience to this, and that the NHS has been really efficient, like slightly alarmingly efficient. I've almost been a bit like, leave me alone kind of thing. I don't want to know. But I went into A&E, the hospital was spotless, and I only waited about 45 minutes to see someone. They took what I was saying really seriously and then followed up with a raft of tests around that. Some of the tests sort of showed some things which worried them a bit, and so they pursued them, even though I was like, it's fine, it's probably just a virus, I'll get over it. They have continued to pursue this. So I've been into hospital about 4 or 5 times. The results, they've given me this app now that I can see my results come in live time. So I'll go in at 9 a.m. and I'll have my results by 2 o'clock that day that I can see. I mean, I have to do a lot of Googling because I don't understand a lot of them, but it's still been really interesting. And then they followed up with phone calls immediately after saying, this is what it means, these are the next steps. It's been alarmingly swift, efficient, competent. And I say that because, I've had a really negative experience of the NHS. So I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to be a waste of time. And it hasn't. And I've seen some people just doing jobs that I wouldn't be able to do in a million years. No. And just working their socks off. I mean, the blood people, for example, I've had numerous blood tests, and the woman I saw, she was 3 minutes late. I'm so sorry, we're running late. And I was like, 3 minutes? I thought that was like miraculous, frankly. And she said she sees someone every 5 minutes from 8:30 until 5 o'clock with an hour's lunch break, just blood. I
used to do that job.
But did you?
Yeah, I used to do that. I was a phlebotomist at the Royal Surrey County Hospital.
Oh, right. I didn't know.
It was more of a well-paid hobby, to be honest with you, than a job. I used it as a bit of a way to supplement my income while I was building my business. I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but I loved that job. I love working there, and it was really good fun. I worked at the Cedar Clinic in the Royal County Hospital, which is a diabetology and endocrinology clinic. At the Royal Surrey, yes. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for healthcare professionals, and I had an experience with the NHS yesterday.
All right.
Not me personally,
yeah.
But I had cause to call an ambulance yesterday for a member of my family, not in my household. but somewhere else.
Right.
I won't go into the full details of it, but I was impressed by South East Coast Ambulance Service. I rang 999 and they were there within, well, I think it must have been about 12 minutes.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. And they were just fantastic. The whole experience. And they kept my relative out of hospital. They didn't need to go to hospital, although they did have to do some stuff, and they called the doctor and all the rest of it. Absolutely phenomenal experience.
Yeah, so I think this narrative that's been used, the Lib Dems used it in the election last year, and of course Labour have used it as well, that the NHS is broken, they're going to fix it, all of this kind of thing. I just think playing politics of this is so wrong from my experience of it. Basically, there are elements of the NHS that I'm sure are broken and are really struggling. And I think the numbers, the population, the demand on it, both from a combination of, yes, things like immigration, but also increasing health problems, disease, chronic disease, this kind of thing from bad diet, bad lifestyle and stuff, has broken elements of it. And of course, there are other parts of it, such as the management structures that potentially aren't always working. But on the whole, I saw people that were delivering, doing their jobs really well and solving people's problems. And I think that's sort of been wiped over to an extent. It's just this thing of like, the NHS is broken. It's that simple. That wasn't my experience of it at all. And I do say that with some surprise. But I've had a lot of feedback from other people who said, I've had an excellent experience. This is what happened to me. I got through this. And I think so before I got ill, I was saying to my partner, what if our little girl gets sick or something? We can't get an ambulance. We can't get care and things. I was getting quite anxious about that, thinking, well, the basic thing I want is decent healthcare. That's really important to me, to everyone. And I got quite anxious about it. And I just think maybe that anxiety is overbuilt.
Well, yeah, because that's all you ever hear. You only ever hear bad things about the NHS in the media and election political operators. So yeah, I can understand why people get anxious about it. But the bottom line is if in the main, if you need the NHS, desperately need the NHS, it's there for you. Generally, and you're gonna get good care, and that's certainly my experience. I mean, our local hospital is Frimley Park Hospital, and the Royal Surrey, and just phenomenal care all around, I would say.
Yeah, and I think this constant slating and saying things are broken, and this is the same in children's services and all sorts of narratives we hear across the country, is really out of order on those staff that are doing a really good job and actually are performing. You're undermining them, taking down their esteem about their job, basically. And we just shouldn't play politics with it. It shouldn't be allowed.
Well, let's just touch upon SEND. Because that's a big subject, and it seems to be a national campaign that the Liberal Democrats have got hold of.
Yeah.
Let's be perfectly honest and blunt about it. There have been issues with SEND, not just in Surrey, but right across the country.
Issues that have been raised by everyone, including the people working within there, and they've been trying to deal with them, and there's actually been some success, which no one ever talks about.
No, but the fact of the matter is, and I have to admit, I am no expert on children's services, SEND, any of that sort of stuff. It's not an area that I'm especially competent in, but the people who are experts in it, and I listen to the news a lot. I listen to talk radio, LBC, and similar. And when you listen to the experts that talk about it, they all say the system itself that it needs reforming.
Yeah, it does.
And that can only be done by government.
Yeah,
and it is unhelpful when again, election political operators try to politicize an issue that just causes more anxiety. And I was listening to Tom Swarbrick
wanting to come and work in that environment as well, and it's bloody hard to get social.
Oh my God, it's impossible, especially in the southeast. But I was listening to LBC the other day. Tom Swarbrick, who's the sort of late afternoon presenter, and he had somebody on there, an expert in SEND, and this expert was basically saying that any parent who finds themselves in that system thinks that or presents their issues as if it's the first time that issue is ever been presented.
Yeah.
And that's something that's wrong with the system. I think that there needs to be brought into the current century. I think and parents and residents need to try and figure out what is available to them and what is possible and what is not.
Yeah.
And I think that's one failure, is that it's something that is very difficult to communicate, and it is horribly complicated.
But
and that's something that does need fixing.
Yeah, but there are really bad cases where it goes wrong, and obviously they need to be flagged and dealt with. It shouldn't be the case that it's a postcode lottery or anything like that. But there are also numerous cases where it goes well and people do get what they need for their child. I mean, children with SEND in Surrey are outperforming local and national GCSE standards, for example. So some cohorts are doing actually quite well and performing and going on to have the lives that they deserve, prosperous, meaningful, all of that. But again, it's about components. So political messaging, they just want to do it easily. It's all broken. Everything's completely wrong. Everyone's bad. Let's attack. That's not how things work in life. They're not all one thing. And it's just too easy to use political messaging because they want gains. They want political gains and they want to damage their opposition. And they're using these highly sensitive issues. And I've got no issue with them challenging. They are there to challenge. All political parties should challenge each other to up their game. But they're playing with people's lives, basically, for cheap, easy messaging.
Yeah, they are. And it's causing a lot of anxiety, and there is now, this is a political website, but if listeners go to the Conservative Surrey .uk website, there's an article that was published on there yesterday about how some of the Surrey MPs, all of which are in this particular instance, there's six Liberal Democrat MPs, isn't there, in Surrey?
Yeah.
Two of which are doing exactly what you're describing with the messaging, and they got a response from the Director of Children's Services to say, well, actually, it's not failing.
Yeah,
it's not failing, and in fact, the government inspectors and the Department for Education and all these bodies recognise that actually there's been vast improvements at Surrey in particular, and the data does not tie up with the narrative that they're pushing out that it's failing, because it's not. And now, don't get me wrong, there are some families that have not had a great experience, and there has been issues, but Children's Services at Surrey County Council are getting on top of it.
Yeah. And that point, but that's the point. It's the services. So these are trained professionals who don't come into their jobs thinking, I want to do a really bad job.
Yeah.
To make people's lives hell. That's what I think I'll do. There might be areas of incompetence or inexperience, absolutely, that let people down. But on the whole, these are people doing jobs that aren't hugely paid, are really stressful and really hard. And this continuing narrative about your service is a disaster and it's all broken when it's not true, it just drives those good people away. And that's when you do end up with real problems. Instead of encouraging the best people and encouraging more training and skills, you go the opposite way. So as I said, you're playing with people's lives. I think it's totally out of order whether it's the NHS or Children's Services, and that's been my thinking over the last 2 weeks of my illness, basically.
Okay, great. Now, the other big topic, sorry, is of course local government reorganisation. Where are we at with that?
So the submissions have gone in, and there's been 2 submissions from Surrey, one from a cohort, not all, but a cohort of the district and boroughs, and one from Surrey County Council with their models. And some of the Ds and Bs, district and boroughs, are saying they think we should have a 3-unitary model, and they've given their case argument for why. Surrey County Council have said they want to see a 2-unitary model. And I think a couple of the districts and boroughs, I know Mole Valley, have voted to support 2. Reigate and Banstead are doing something different. They're looking towards Crawley or something. So there's not full agreement between anyone. I think the reasoning, well, I know the reasoning for the 2 unitary model is largely about finding those efficiencies and being able to put more money into service delivery, better roads, better services, all of that kind of thing, rather than management, bureaucracy, buildings. And that, with the argument about strengthening local democracy via parish councils and community forums and all of that kind of thing. I haven't had too many views from residents. I don't know if you have. I'm not getting huge amounts of correspondence on this.
No, not a massive amount. I think the only sort of people that are paying attention to this who are like residents associations and societies, other political operators, parish town councils. There's a bit of anxiety around that and what the future holds for parish and town councils. But in the main, I think residents are generally pretty disengaged from this process. I think we are still very early in the process, though. And as things develop, I think that people are more likely to pay more attention to what's going on.
I think most people just want their bins emptied, their roads neat and tidy, and able to. Most people are there. You've got your percentage of people who are the touch points with children's services and adult social services, but generally residents like you and I aren't at this stage, aren't using any of those services. So I just want my bins emptied and I want decent roads, really. There is all sorts of other things councils do, economic strategies, supporting businesses, obviously looking after the environment. Those are all important things as well. I think people just get on with it as long as you deliver the services. Stop wasting money. They don't want money wastage. Everyone's fed up of that. And I think, it'd be interesting to hear from people. I think most people would like us to ensure that more money is going into actual services and delivery. We don't want loads of people in offices unless they're doing something really meaningful.
Absolutely. Let's face it. You and I have been involved, you quite a bit longer than me, but we've both been together involved in local government for quite a long time. And let's face it, there is a lot of inefficiency. For instance, and we just take my county council division and Mitchett, Frimley Green and Deepcut as an example. Politically, we have 7 councillors in my county council division.
Right.
We have 1 county councillor, me, and 6 borough councillors.
Yeah.
Right? Now, my area of responsibility, just one, is roughly representing 10,500 residents, actually nearer 11,000 residents, where the 6 borough and district councillors only represent 3,500 between them.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I've got that wrong. Beg your pardon. The 6 borough councillors cover that nearly 11,000 between them.
Split between them, yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't make any sense. And I think the proposal is to go down within the local government reorganisation from 7 to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you. If it only went down to 1, certainly in my county council division, I don't think hardly anyone would notice. They really wouldn't. Of the 7, there's probably only 1 or 2 of us that.
Well, the only thing that matters is have you got someone competent? Have you got someone who answers their emails? Have you got someone who takes up local issues and fights for you? If it's one person, that's all you need, because there's a lot of councillors who don't do that. Any of these things, people just need someone that will shout and make sure they're heard. That's the key thing. So it's about competency. It's not numbers.
No, and I think that's what the process will naturally create that competency in the main, because I think there will be a lot more competition for the fewer seats that are going to be available.
Yeah.
And, I think that actually that is a big reason why there's so much misinformation being pumped out. Around this local government reorganisation.
People have got skin in the game and they want to protect their positions. Yeah,
absolutely. And there was a survey put out apparently in the name of the borough and district councils. I don't think all of them were too happy about it, but there was a survey put out and it was just so skewed and trying to funnel people down into a particular viewpoint that it was just a giant waste of time. I'll be amazed if many people have filled out that survey.
Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, the misinformation again, I don't know what's happened. I mean, it's a national and international issue as well, misinformation, isn't it? It's just, it never used to be like this. When I started in local government, everyone, opposition, whatever, stuck to the truth, and everyone was diligent about that. Whereas now it's just misleading stuff all the time on social media, but even through people's letterboxes as well. It's really hard to control, and it feels quite disempowering.
I got to admit though, I was involved in that myself last week. You know, I had to issue a public apology on my Facebook page because I'd been wrong, basically. But you know, I have to say, I felt under pressure to try and you know, raise awareness about a particular issue, and in my enthusiasm to do that, I got something wrong, but at least
you acknowledged it quick enough.
I acknowledged it right away as soon as I found out that I'd got it wrong, you know, and publicly apologized for it. And I think we do need to see a bit more of that, where, you know, where someone gets something wrong, and clearly those, as we mentioned earlier, those Surrey MPs, the 6 Liberal Democrats,
they got it wrong, and they should be saying, yeah, okay, these are the real facts, this is what we're working with. And they can still find points of criticism, there will always be points of criticism, but stop misleading people. It's completely wrong. But like the last full council meeting, we all sat in the same room, and yet one party came out of a completely different narrative to everyone else about what happened in that meeting, which was obviously misleading and wrong. And they should, you know, it's just simple.
I mean, they also know that, I mean, let's face it, those meetings are not the most exciting of meetings. And they know that very few people actually will tune in and watch them.
Yeah.
So there's no accountability as far as that's concerned. And then you see them clipping certain parts of the meeting just about them speaking, not the general debate.
Yeah.
And it is, like you say, it's just completely misleading.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's a bigger battle. We carry on sort of going and fighting against it as much as we can. We've always tried to make this podcast, obviously comes with a political slant. That's unavoidable. We'd be foolish for saying it didn't, but we have tried to be quite direct and honest about the conversations we have on here. We don't script it. We don't plan it. We don't talk to each other before we get on here.
No.
It's literally like, let's jump on a call and record our call.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll carry on doing that. And I think in light of that, we should pick up the SEND and Children's Services thing in the next month or so.
Maybe we ought to get Claire on. Claire Curran, who is the cabinet member responsible, and really does understand this stuff, and she you know, she will be dead honest about the situation.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. So I think we should explore it and dig deeper into it. Other issues for discussion, I mean, we will find out within the next month, I suppose, where government are actually going to go, 2 unitaries, 3 unitaries, all of that kind of thing. So we'll be able to update on that. Any other topics you can think of, Paul, that you think should come forward?
Well, you know, like you said, local government reorganisation is the big topic, and I think we ought to follow that closely and report on that.
Yeah, I'm going to start a campaign. Well, I already have started a campaign. I'm going to build on it, which is about doing better for business.
Right.
I think that our small and rural and local businesses are under the biggest pressure they've ever been under. The NI kicked in 2 days ago. That's been a real hit for them, and they've got increased energy costs. Inflation's still sort of creeping around. I think that if we don't take proactive steps as a country to protect these businesses, they won't make it through, and that changes our whole community in the way that we do things. So I'm doing a business campaign with the focus being on how can Surrey County Council support business, but also lobbying hard to government to say you need to copy actually the Conservative model in having small grants for growth for small businesses that are easy to access, as long as they've got a business plan and you're not throwing money, you know, it's going to disappear. I'm not looking at sort of the COVID loan scenario. It has to be robust, but I think businesses need a helping hand, and it's those small local businesses that will get us out of the economic hole we're in as a country. So that's really my priority, and I think perhaps bringing in a couple of small businesses to have a chat on the podcast about how it is in Surrey at the moment would be interesting.
Well, and that you and I recently did a tour around the sort of Surrey Hills area as part of the Rural Prosperity Fund grants that had been awarded, and we saw some phenomenal.
We did. Let's get some of that on, because that was, and it could inspire other businesses to see if you had 10, 20, 50 grand, what could you do with that money to scale up your business? Like the beer company we saw that had created a whole new, you know, business arm of what it was doing and things. So this creates prosperity and jobs in Surrey. Really good topic. The other topic I want to talk about at some point is tackling illegal dumping and planning issues. So there's areas in Surrey where things go really wrong on beautiful bits of land, and we seem really slow at enforcing them. There's reasons for that. I'd like to drill down on that and look at how we can do it better.
Well, the one thing I want to talk about, which is and not the most glamorous of subjects, but dog shit and the literally leave their. I don't understand why somebody would go to the trouble to bag up their dog waste and then just either tie it on a tree or leave it. And I've noticed, because I've been doing a lot of walking lately.
Okay.
They're just literally just these dog bags, and you can see that they've got dog waste in them because either someone stood over it and it's the bag split open, just literally in the middle of the path.
Well, there's an interesting initiative. I was ill, but I was supposed to do the opening speech to an initiative last week called Love Dogs, and it's being run by the Surrey National Landscapes and the University of Surrey, that have done a research project on responsible dog ownership. So we could bring them in. We did the dog poo one a while ago, remember? It was our first podcast, in fact, but we could come back and say, why is it now getting worse? Definitely, and pick that up again. For sure. So yeah, let's have a look at that. Okay, Marisa. So good to chat, and we will come back next week with a new podcast on we'll decide what subject that is, and let's get back on a normal schedule if we can. Yeah, we will do. All right. Thanks. All right. See you later.